Hey, and welcome back, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Journey Beyond podcast. In today's episode, we're diving into a round two with one of my very good friends, Michael and Putu, who you've probably already seen in one of my very first episodes. And in today's episode, we're going to dive into, a whole nother array of topics concerning, mental health, discipline, how to get things done, how to set goals in life, and just great conversations about life, about the meaning of life. And it was such a good time, right? If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the Journey Beyond podcast here on YouTube, Spotify, and all of your preferred platforms. And if you haven't yet, leave a like down below if you want to see more episodes like these coming out. So without further ado, let's dive right into today's episode with Michael M. One. Yeah, what I was about to say is we have gotten so accustomed to doing this baby here, to get on, turn on Riverside, turn on this beautiful podcasting software, click the record button. There's no briefing needed because, once you advance a little bit in your skill sets and being able to host and being able to lead conversations on a podcast, the thing that I learned that I so highly appreciate about this skill is that you get so comfortable with uncomfortable situations. When you don't know someone in front of you, like normally you would be like, okay, let's have a briefing. Let's sit together and I'm going to explain you how this works. Like once you get so accustomed to it, that's why you see people, I don't know, like Lewis Howes or even like Jay Shetty or even like Joe Rogan. Of course, they have a pre-brief, yes. But they just turn on and they're like, yo, what's up, man? We're just going to run with this in a flow. There's no need for big pre-prepping and whatsoever. So big words from the big man over here, Michael M. Putu. It is round two. We have finally made it for round two. You have been one of the first episodes and the first interviews that I did. I am so happy to see you, my man. How are you doing?
My man. It's been a while. And it's really a pleasure and honor to be back on the podcast. I mean, like you just said, I was one of the first guests and I appreciate it big time. And it's crazy. It's crazy to see your development, not just like over the years, but specifically with this podcast. So overall, of course, I'm doing well. Really can't complain. Just I keep on working on myself, upgrading, elevating. It's just like the growth never stops mantra, and that's really something that I live through. So yeah, man.
Ooh, do I hear? Do I hear?
It's the
Do
thing.
I hear a comeback here? Do I hear a comeback here? Because I know what the growth never stops mindset is, but do the people out there know what the growth never stops mindset truly is, Michael and Putu? I don't think so, and I think you should just quickly explain them what it is.
I mean, how should I get into this? Just as far as the mindset, it's something. It's an idea that started out on paper. So I just started to, you know, going through the creative process of how I could start my own podcast. And while I got into it, I also had to do the introspective work with myself as far as, okay, what are my values? What are my principles? What are my skills, competencies, my interests? And when you start to get that melting pot and put it all together, what came out of it was the growth never stops. And it's pretty, it encompasses my life mentality, my life mindset. And that's just the way I look at life. It's just, there's like no end goal and destiny. And it's just, it reminds me of one of the best quotes I've ever heard from one of the fathers of personal development, Earl Nightingale. He's like a legend. He was like Bob Proctor's mentor, like he did a lot of work in the 60s. And his definition of success was, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal or dream. And that's
Wow.
something that was like remarkable for me to take into account. And that's a little bit how I look at life and live life. It's just, progressively getting better in whatever you like to elevate, and there's just like no end destination. It's just, I'm feeling unlocking your full potential. It's something you talked about in the podcast where you refer to Immanuel Kant and you talked about
Hmm.
philosophy. I just listened to it this morning, and
And you
so
know what I mean?
it's quite no. So
You know what
exactly.
I
So I
told you
know.
there.
Oh man. So it was very relatable what you were talking about on that podcast, talking about
Hmm.
just unlocking your potential and just the self improvement, the self work, and there's just like
Hmm.
no there are no limits to it. It's just keep on
It's
going. Growth never
it's the
stops. That's it.
Exactly. That's amazing, bro. That's amazing. And I have to say, Michael used to run a podcast too, and I was really lucky to get and like be actually for the first time in my life not on the asking side of the spectrum on a podcast, but actually on the being asked or being interviewed side. And it was so much fun, bro. And I really hope in the future, I'm putting it out there. I really hope in the future that Growth Never Stops podcast will receive and will through live a revival again, because I think you and me, we have this natural gift of just being so good in a flow of talking, of vibing, of just getting into topics. And I think if we would be sitting in front of each other right now and there would be no distance, right? We would be talking exactly the same way. We would just have a normal conversation as friends, exactly in the same way as we're doing a podcast interview. Same thing I have with Felix, same thing I have with Matthew, for example, right? But that's the beauty of it. Like these, like people like us, we are, I would say, and from my perspective, we're just naturally born podcasters. We should be doing podcasts and we should be putting our message out there on a consistent basis, because that's just what we're good at, right? Like when I started this podcast around, it's been now 30 episodes deep. So it's more than half a year already that I'm doing it, which is pretty amazing. It's the first I started. Okay, let's count. It's been 8 months. Is it 8 months? My math is really bad. I started on the 1st of September. Yeah, that's 3 months. And then another 6. That's 9 months, bro. I've been on it for 9 months, bro. That's crazy. But like this is the thing. It's the progressive realization of an ideal or of certain values and principles that you want to put forth, right? I love the quote from Earl Nightingale that you just put forward. And obviously his books are amazing. His teachings and lessons are amazing. There are incredible YouTube teachings from him out there. But one thing which I highly agree with you is when I started out this podcast, I had to come to the grounds of, okay, what is this podcast going to be about? Because obviously, how you do anything is how you do everything. I don't know how many times I've mentioned this quote already, but like when I start something, I want to have it locked in, right? I don't want to just like, of course, in the beginning, you try out and you see and you narrow down what you want this baby to be, but there has to be certain ground rules, right? I said from the beginning onwards, I want honest conversations. I don't need things to be scripted. I would like to have a free flowing conversation because that's how I get most of out of my head and most of out of my guest heads, without having like a pre-written scripts. Where it's too much like, okay, Michael, next question. Okay, Michael, next question. I don't like this type. It's more of an interview type, and it's not what I like, right? And you had to come down. I had to come down to the ground principles and values that I want to lay as a foundation for this podcast. And I said, okay, what are some things that I like talking about? Well, obviously, personal development, professional development, spiritualism, mental and health optimization, relationships, everything to do with emotional management and emotional intelligence. Like these are things, or even history, right? These are things and topics that I like. So what are topics that I don't like and that I always tell my guests before I get on a podcast? Very simple. Politically enhancing conversations and questions are always polarizing and are always like dividing, because we only see one side of the coin and we make the entire volume of it, we make it up in our mind, right? So it's always a very biased standpoint. So I just don't talk about politics on this podcast. I don't like anything that's going on in the world that is controversial. I just don't like talking about. And that's as simple as that, right? And this is how this podcast has evolved, because my listeners, which are now slowly, steadily growing as I've been building out my YouTube channel as well, they are slowly realizing as well, okay, he has a specific way of going, a specific niche, I would say, that he likes to be in. And yeah, man, it's authentic. It's authentically him because he sticks to his lane. And I think that is really important. So when you talk about the Growth Never Stops podcast, you had your lane and you were really good at what you were doing, right?
Thank you.
Obviously, I understand there need to be certain retrospective breaks where if you're not congruent with the progress that you're seeing and you are not 100% sure of where you would want to take it, then obviously a break is always good. I'm a big fan of it, right? I've had breaks. Lucky I only upload once a week. Not like with the What the Passion podcast before, where we did 2 episodes a week, where at a certain moment it was getting a lot. I have 6 days to get up and see what I want to do this podcast about, right? So I have a lot of introspection time. Um, but yeah, man, I really like the principle that you came up with the Growth Never Stops podcast. Like, how did this philosophy for you in your life has shaped you? Because I know it's been a long time already since you've started this idea. Like, how would you describe your development throughout that time from where you started to in the middle where you were struggling and figuring it out to where you are now? How would you describe that trajectory?
Just as far as this like life principle that I got to build for myself, not specifically the
Hmm.
podcast you're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay,
Not specifically podcast, life.
I
Michael.
got you.
Michael.
I got you. Well, I think it's something that started pretty early on, to be honest. It's just that I got to put it on paper later on in life. But it's something that's always been a part of me because I started very early. When it comes to sports, I started very early. Like at the age of 6, I started playing basketball and I was just
Hmm.
completely obsessed with it. I
Yeah.
was completely obsessed with it. It was my first big love, and I was just relentless. I was like always one of the hardest workers, one of the guys being early at the gym, and then one of the last ones leaving. And it was like that throughout my entire youth until I got to play at the highest level in the country. And I was fortunate enough to win at the highest level as well. Never made any transition as a full time professional basketball player, which was one of my dreams. But at some point, like you get to play against higher level competition, and then you realize, like you're good, but maybe not as good as you thought, and that's a big slap in the
Uh-huh.
face. And you just know that, okay, maybe like you can be good at certain things, but they're just levers to this. And then, of course, there are other components as well. You just get injured and then you stop growing at some point, and it's like, okay, I got it. It's not going to be my lane, but at least I got to some sort max out just the set and the talents that I had. Of course, I could have done even more, but it was already a mindset that I had. So like when I was younger, I was known for that, just being the hard worker, the one that's just obsessed, that's doing the extra work, the one that would skip like these parties to to just work out. It's never been different, to be honest. So it's something that I carried on throughout my entire life. And but then also, to be honest, there are other parts of my life where I didn't really have that determination, discipline, such as like school. I was just an average
Mhm.
student. Okay, I was at the highest level in the school system in my country, but I was an average student at the highest level. So I also failed my senior year in high school. I had to retake it. I barely made it throughout university. I just found a way to make it happen, but I wasn't exceptional. So yeah, I had to find a way to just figure it out and just get shit done. And
Mhm.
that's also one of the big things that I learned throughout life is there's so many things that you you're gonna do, you're gonna have to do that just suck. You don't feel like doing it. Either you don't feel like doing it, or there's just things that you don't want to do, and it's part of the game. It's part of the game. There's this one famous mantra or quote in the American U.S. military that says "Embrace the suck," especially during the entire training, like in Navy SEALs or I don't know other military branches, and it's just sometimes it's just gonna suck, but what's gonna come out of it over time, like the compound effect reference, it's just priceless. And the little things such as cold showers, for example. Man, it's one of those things. I don't know. I'm just never really gonna get used to it, but the
Mhm.
benefits. I mean, come on, it's you
Yeah,
can't
it's
you can't
undoubtable.
dispute it. It's
No, it's
exactly.
undeniable.
It's
Yeah.
undeniable. It's undeniable. But on the other side, I always, yeah, of course, I always talk about growth. I always talk about personal development, self development. But it's also something I've taken kind of a distance from over the past, let's say, 2 years, because you do all of these things. You read, you listen to the podcast, to the interviews. You kind of get into all the theory aspects of it, and at some point you also got to take some action. So I went from getting all the input, all the time, and then at some point you're like, damn, I'm just that that student that doesn't apply anything, or not consistently, or doesn't do it to the full extent. And then I went through a phase where all I was getting into was action. It's just action, action, action. And I kind of um, alleviated the aspect of getting input, even though I always listen, for example, to podcasts. I've been doing it since what? Since 2013. Yeah, 2013, about just over 10 years. I've been listening to podcasts pretty much every day. But
Hmm.
like I stopped reading. I stopped doing some of the things I used to do. So I realized that I was an overcorrection. And now I'm getting more back into the thing of just combining the things. So getting some solid, valuable input, taking what's going to benefit my life, and of course, taking action, applying. But also, something else that I wanted to mention is the thing about, there's this whole niche of self improvement junkies. All they do is that's all they do. Self improvement, self improvement. They go to all the
Optimizing,
masterminds, all the
optimizing,
courses,
optimizing.
and
Yeah.
then there's just
Mhm.
nothing comes out of it because there's not they don't go through the application process, to the failure process, to the adjustments. And it's also like, now that I'm approaching my 30th birthday next year, it's like the idea that I had of my 20s was maybe kind of, it wasn't really what I expected. Like, a lot of things have not gone my way, and I
Yeah.
really didn't expect it. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's gonna work out like this, like that. I'm gonna figure it out. I got the mindset, I got the work ethic, I got the values, I got the friends, blah blah blah. But it's not as easy as I anticipated, and I actually love it. I love the friction in life because that's only helping me to elevate, to step up my game. And
Hmm.
another point I wanted to share as well is, as far as it's good, this entire component of growing and self-improvement in all of these aspects of life, amazing, beautiful. But at the same time, we can't forget that we are humans, just humans as well. And there are uh, many elements and components of what really makes us humans. And sometimes it's okay to take a break. Sometimes it's okay to get and be bored, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. And I can also just speak for myself as well. It's a pretty subjective thing as well. For me, personally, for myself, individually speaking, what really feeds me, what really fulfills me, is just respecting my obligations and duties, and just going after it. I love it. Doesn't mean that I don't enjoy or need time where I just don't do anything. I just sit in peace, meditate, whatever it is, and it's good as well. It's a little bit this duality concept, the yin and yang, whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
And yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to emphasize on that as well. It's not just, oh, self improvement, let's go.
Wow.
Ooh. No, it's all. You also need the time of. You can also just chill sometimes. It's okay. It's alright.
I first of all thank you for sharing this within the last 5 6 minutes. I honestly, while you were talking, there were so many interesting topics that came up that I wanted to tap into, so I had to start writing them down. Now, otherwise, I would forget because it's like a lot of stuff from what you said. And I'm actually not going to start from the beginning because that's going to unwind everything, but I'm going to start from where you ended off right now. Um, Bro, I 100% agree with you what you said about, the 20s. If you get to my last video that I did last week about the 3 habits that I learned in my 20s, I talked about, discipline, I talked about habits, I talked about the suck, and I mentioned you a couple of times within that episode, as well as the compound effect, because I really appreciated that throughout our first talk. But exactly what you said, when you are 19 turning 20, right, you just started figuring out life. You have no idea about anything in life, and you're just starting out in this world, right? And you say, bro, in my 20s I'm gonna conquer the world, right? It's like the young man's dream, or the young boy's dream, until he actually gets knocked down by life multiple times, and he has to come to his terms and grow up and become a man. And as a man, you see the world differently, right? I mean, obviously, there are people out there, the majority of people out there who've never heard about personal development, who've never read a book in their life, and they still manage to live, and they still manage to, get things done in life, right? So it's not that personal development is the only trajectory to life's fulfillment. By far, no, definitely not. I don't believe that, because there are people who have learned lessons throughout ever reading a book. They have learned lessons, and they've taken experiences through hardships, through, the book of life, right? Through just like running with it. Um, so I highly agree with you that, personal development is something that has, in my opinion, I'm a big proponent of it, and I will always be a big proponent, believer, and, advocate of it. But personal development only will take you so far. As you say, it will fill up your brain with a lot of like hot air and a lot of like mumbo jumbo clouds of, I'm very intellectual now, and I know the equation, and I know what E equals MC square actually means, right? Like that kind of stuff. That is personal development in a nutshell. But once you actually go out there and you try to figure out, okay, what is actually E equals MC square? How does that actually work? And you're like,
The
I don't
game
even
of
know how to
life.
show you that, right? The game of life. And maybe that's a bad example, but that's what I'm trying to say about that, is that what I realized, and that's what I did the video last week. I sat down and I thought about it. Like, what were the 3 things that I learned in my 20s? 3 things. I could have told you about driving a car, being able to handle situations in a car accident, like those kind of things. No, those 3 things what I learned from personal development in my life, and has been so much more. And I believe, honestly, you need your 20s to actually figure out who you are, and your 30s are there to truly build what you want to build in your life. And that's why I'm highly, highly, highly looking forward to it. I thought at the beginning of my 20s that my 30s are going to be the scariest time, and I'm already on my way to my pension, right? I'm already like heading off. Half of my life is over, right? But now, coming, like, being more mature, being older, being grown up, right? Being a man, you get to realize that your 30s are probably going to be your most valuable time, because you've had 10 years of figuring things out slightly. Doesn't mean you have it figured out, but you had 10 years of actually practicing your craft and becoming better at what you do. And that's why I 100% agree with you. It's like, at this point, what personal development books teach you is like, you gotta hustle. You just gotta put your head down and hustle for the next 5 to 10 years, and don't do anything else. And right, you just have to look forward, because there's no looking back. And I've had a conversation with a friend on an Instagram post recently, and we disagreed on some opinions, right? He said, you only look forward and you never look back. There is an only forward, forward, forward. And I said, if that's your belief, I'm super happy for you. Then that is the truth for your reality. That is the truth for your perspective. I'm someone, I know where I came from. I'm a very emotional being, and I've had to overcome a lot of shit in my life so far. So I like looking back, because this actually like takes the steam and the tension of my way forward, right? Because sometimes you're walking and you're walking and you're walking and you're going to the gym and you're going to the gym. Imagine going to the gym for 12 months, 4 weeks, 5 to 6 times a week. That's a lot of fucking workouts. And imagine how many times you have to go to the gym until you actually see tangible results. Not only maybe because you've eaten a little bit too much porridge and you gotten a bit swollen up, but actually where you see tangible results in your efforts. It takes a long fucking time. it takes a long fucking time for you to actually see like good results in the gym. So there comes the realization. So is it about the sprint or is it about the marathon? Is it about like doing it for 1 year and then just like looking at yourself, quitting and being like, oh, I did it for a year? Or is it the long run game for the next 50 years? That's your
I got a
choice,
great quote for
right?
this.
If you
Sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt you, Tim, but
No, please
this
go
is
ahead.
like,
Let's cut in
bro.
whenever you want to, because I think that's the best way to do it.
Nah, this is some real talk right now. I love it. I love it. The way it's also like unscripted and just you're just flowing. I love it, man. That's a vibe, and it's one of the topics, or just one of the subjects I'm really passionate about. Even if it's in more of a macro perspective, but one
Mhm,
quote that came to my mind right now is from Nick Bear. He's like an American entrepreneur and athletic
mhm.
freak. Unbelievable guy.
You've mentioned him on the last podcast.
Exactly. He's a badass. He's really someone I got tremendous respect for. Also, family
Hmm.
guy and etc. But
Hmm.
he, his one of his running coaches said during one of his marathon preparations, he said that this one is so good. It's better to be consistently good than occasionally great. It's better
Wow.
to be consistently good than occasionally great. And
Wow.
especially over time, throughout time. I mean, a lot of people can be great from time to time. Maybe it's
Hmm.
sometime on a yearly basis or once in 3 years or 3 months, whatever. But being consistently good day by day, week by week, year by year, ah man, I mean, this is that's some next level stuff. And just again, I know I always use this reference over and over again, but the compound effect over time, you might not see it at the beginning, but throughout time and years, the divergence it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just the gym example
It's
that you
becoming
used. It's
exactly,
huge. It's
exactly.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really big because I've noticed that, of course, last year has been a tough year, right? But what I've noticed is that throughout that year I've gained a lot of like weight in the sense of muscle because I was training really really hard, right? And I could see what you could do in 1 year. And I was very surprised that when this year coming around the same time, 1 year later, I looked at my body and I was like, wow, okay, there's actually some great improvement. I became bigger, but it's still very, 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 very far away from where I want to go to. It doesn't mean I want to become like 2 by 2, but it means at least that the progress is now slower because I've made more gains and I've have to work even harder and change things up because the same rhythm that I've did beginning of last year doesn't apply or necessarily work anymore in the same stimulus and stimuli this year. So I have to change things up. And there again, leading over to your quote, which from Nick Bear, which I really love. Great implies that you never do anything wrong. Good implies that most of the time you're doing things right, but most of the other times you're doing things wrong, but you're just finding your way back to being at your equilibrium. And bro, that gives me the shivers too because I 100%, and I will clip this.
Man.
I will 100%, I will 100% make sure to most of the time do the best things that I can to just be good, to do the right things in my perspective. And a lot of other times I will fail and I will make mistakes and I will do stupid mistakes even, right? Once. I will try to avoid them a second time, but they're inevitable. So coming to your point of making mistakes is human. Bro, I mean, you know what kind of mistakes only in the last 12 months I have kind of like been through and overcame and worked through. But it's important to understand that nobody's perfect. And if you're trying to live a perfect life, I mean, perfect example that comes to my mind here, Brian Johnson. He wants to live the perfect life, like the perfect human optimization, health optimization protocol. But if you would ask him if he would ever recommend it to anyone else and still live a happy and fulfilled and like balanced life, he would say fuck no. right? So that's the thing, is like, what are you aiming for? What's your goal? Do you want to have a balanced life with ups and downs and, the occasional struggle of like figuring it out? Or do you just want to aim for the impossible perfection that you will never reach, and you will always hold yourself to a standard that you were never going to accomplish realistically, um, but yet you're still aiming for it. And at the end of the day, you will realize or come to the realization um, that all of that effort has been for not reaching that goal, right? That's what the great guy would aim for. The guy that aims for the most of the time good, is he will still aim for something higher and bigger and greater than himself,
Exactly.
yes, but he will look back and he will appreciate and he will worship the process and the journey instead of the destination. And that is such a beautiful quote. That is such a beautiful way of looking at life, is that fuck up, make it up again, try, succeed, fuck up again, make it up, try again, succeed, fuck up, and that's just life. That's so beautiful. Ah,
Welcome to the real world. Welcome to the real world. That's it.
bro,
That's it,
I am
man.
so
Yeah.
looking forward to our 30s.
Oh,
It's going to be the most
100%.
amazing time ever.
I'm
Ah,
embracing it 100%. 100%. Now, it's exactly
bro,
just like you said it. The whole build up in your 20s and just realizing what this life is about, and checking that you're always figuring out things and there's no end line to it, and just shaping yourself, whether it is your identity, your principles, your values, getting to know yourself, already putting work, of course, but just building the framework for the house. And then the 30s,
yes.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's like the
I'm
30s are
so
the new
excited.
20s, the new 20s,
Yes.
especially when you take care of yourself.
Yes.
So yeah, man, for
Yes.
sure.
Oh, one other topic that about from what you said before and your longer speech, I wrote down like a point that I wanted to tackle, which is very interesting. When you talked about your passion towards basketball, right? And I find it always very interesting that how at a young age we develop certain goals and dreams of aspiring to become someone, right? Of aspiring to become the best at a certain sport. Like the thought that came into my mind at that point, because let's say I've played football for most of my younger years, but I've never had a dream of becoming a great football player. So I can't 100% relate to what you're saying. I've only developed these bigger goals in my 18, 19, 20s, like around those time. um but an interesting thing, what came to my mind when you talked about it, is that when it comes to goals, right, you have in your mind the ideal of becoming the best basketball player. You're optimizing and you're improving and you're working and you're grinding on a daily basis to get those free throws in, to get those twos, those oneers, those layups, those alley oops, right, those Steph Curry middle line throws in, right? And you just optimizing, optimizing, optimizing. And the question that I'm asking myself here, and I want to relate this and put this into a rather like bigger macro perspective, um, is that what if throughout this process, you didn't fall in love with the process of becoming the best basketball player, but actually you fell in love with the process or the aspect of growing and becoming better than you were yesterday. So the actual goal that you were aiming for, you just didn't know how to name it because you named it basketball, right? You named it becoming, improving, being the first one on the court, being the last one out there. You fell in love with the process of growing, and you fell in love with that aspect of growth because you could see improvement from yesterday's training to today's training, last week's training to this week's training. So in the end, it was not really about, and don't get me wrong, maybe basketball is still a dream of yours, but I'm referring to that, skill and mindset aspect of it. So what if that process is what you really were, what really was your goal, and actually you are still realizing that goal because you just took it with you from your younger
Mm-hmm.
years, right? So you've actually never abandoned your goal of that basketballer, because the aspect that you fell in love with is what you took with you and what you're still actually realizing in your life. That just came to my mind while I was listening to it, and I find it so beautiful to think about. And with a lot of other people's out there, if their goal is to become a football player, like what part of becoming a football player would you aspire to be or to have or to become? Like what part of becoming an astronaut or psychologist or doctor or the most famous singer or YouTuber whatsoever, what part of it do you really want, right? Dissect it. Is it the money? Is it the skill set? Is it the attention? Is it the validation? Is it the right? You can break those things down into multiple different pieces. And what piece specifically do you love about it? And I can imagine for you, it's personal growth. It's growing, it's becoming better, and you're still working on that goal. So you've never actually gave up on that goal, which is amazing.
That's big time. I never really looked at it this way, and man, that's a huge, that's kind of a huge cognition, to be honest, because when you're younger and you're just in the process, because you actually love the sports itself, you actually love the game. I was obsessed with it. I knew like pretty much every NBA player, where they play, like their birthdays. I was pretty known for that, for just getting all of the stats and having the knowledge of especially the NBA game. And it was my dream to get to that stage, to that level, which at the age of 12, 13, I started to realize, nah, it's not, it's it's not gonna cut it. But
Mm-hmm.
just in the moment itself, when I was younger, I probably didn't look at it this way, as far as just falling in love with the process and the growth aspects, and just seeing how my skills would elevate, and without just being completely uh, focused on the end goal, or the macro goal of, oh yeah, I want to be a full-time professional athlete. But it's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, over time. But it became more obvious over time. Let's say maybe around the age of 16, 17, 18. That's where I realized, when like you're teenager, you're just having fun, there are a lot of parties going on and stuff like that. And I realized that, yeah, I did it and I really enjoyed it. I started very early, all of that stuff I was in. But at the same time, I separate myself a little bit from others, because like my work ethic, I knew that there was something different as far as my approach, and I couldn't really describe it, but it was something that I emulated from people I had tremendous respect for, such as
Mm-hmm.
LeBron James, my favorite athlete of all time. Insane work ethic. This guy
Mm-hmm.
spent playing for 21 years in the NBA. It's still in the 1% top shape form. Um, the things he's doing for his body, investing $2 million per year into his body, his work ethic, his approach. He's in shape throughout the entire year. Even when there are like pictures during the off season, this guy is always, he's consistently good, always on point, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan, he was a huge influence on me as well, both for LeBron James and Michael Jordan. And then later on, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, his like mentality, the Black Mamba mentality. That's something that really started to shape my mind and my mentality at, yeah, around this age, 16, 17, 18, where I started to, yeah, decipher this entire thing of personal development, consistency, determination, commitment. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, now it's very, thank you for that. It's very interesting. It's something I could reflect on maybe a little bit more. And now I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. And if I
Yeah,
may
it's
add something to this as well, because my mindset has shifted as well over the last 2 years, which I would say that at the age of 27, I started to become a man, to transition from a boy to a man. And it really took me a while, man. It took me a long time, and
mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful process seeing that. So that's one of the reasons that I'm looking forward to the 30s as well, to really establish myself as, the man I'd like to become, that I envision to become. But also, one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that I adapted is or adjusted is, you were talking about how for you it's important to have this time of reflection, maybe observing and analyzing the past, maybe make some connections with today, or making the connection with what you envision for yourself, maybe in the short-term future or long-term future, which there are tremendous benefits to that. But for whatever reason, something that's worked tremendously for me is I have a little bit this man in black memory, where you have this object and you just like snip
Mm-hmm.
it and take the
Erase,
picture
erase
and
all
just
the memories.
erase the past memories. And it's something that's worked so well for me, as far as just being able to let go very quickly. Maybe some things that were embarrassing, some failures that I had, and it's like, okay, I'm just I just go on about it, and I've been getting way better as far as just living in the present, or just being in line with what I want for the day itself, for the week, for the months, without projecting myself too much into the future. But
Mm-hmm.
no, it's just something that I wanted to add to this conversation, because I used to be a person who would get. I still do this work, this introspective, reflective work, but without being
Mm-hmm.
stuck in it. And there's always this risk and danger of being stuck in that area of in some areas of your life that refer to the past. But if you can manage to take it as leverage and do something with it, and maybe work on it, process it, digest it, I mean, phenomenal. But that's a big question, like, who's really able to make that cut between you know this difference between attachment and connection with something. And it's a big thing, especially with the past, because like we all know, I think it was Lao Tzu who said that attachment is one of the roots of all suffering, and connection is something different, because there's still
Mm-hmm.
some sort of link, but without there, like, let's say there's an imaginary cord that you could cut at any time. But with attachment, it's like, oh, it keeps on pulling you back, and it's like this this circle that you just can't get out of. So yeah, man, it's
Mm-hmm.
just something that came to my mind, and I wanted to share as well.
100% agree with you on that one. And I think there again, it always depends from individual to individual, right? No
Exactly.
individual has the same past, has the same path as another human being. It's just the way that life works in its individual states and forms is like everyone is different and everyone is dealing with things in a different way, in a different manner,
Exactly.
and in a different time, right? So I think that's why I love when people have their own opinions and they say, no, I don't believe, or I disagree, because for me it is not the same. And to that I always respond, bro, I'm so happy for you, because then you have been blessed with a different life than I have. Blessed, I mean, you're just experiencing a different life that I have, different upbringings, different circumstances. um and if that works for you, amazing, amazing, bro, enjoy it, enjoy that gift. Yet on the other hand side, let other people enjoy or their personal experience and their individual experience in the way that they have learned to deal with it, right? Because
Absolutely.
no way, like in no other way, like the goal is still the same. Like the goal for us all is still to get to that goal, to get things done. Just how we get there, I would say, is an individualized art. Because, and some people get through that pinnacle of artism through, I don't know, Dali's time pictures, right? Like through that weird way of drawing. Or you have Van Gogh, or you have, like, every artist has his own form, but no matter how they did it, they all entered the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Legends in the artistic space. Um, and when it comes to attachments, I agree with you. I mean, personal development is important as far as it is towards your personal development, and as long as it is constructive, it is serving you. At the moment starts becoming destructive, it starts to become a hindrance for you. It starts to become an anchor for you that you have to, as well, again, through personal development, learn how to detach yourself from. And some people have it harder than others because, again, and I mean, you probably know that very well from your professional field, is that certain triggers, certain anchors, certain impulses, happening situations, experiences in our childhood determine even the behavior, the thoughts, the rhythm of a 45 to 50-year-old man,
Of
in the
course.
same way as it has as when he was 10 to 15 years old, right? So there it becomes like, this is the interesting world of psychology, where you're like, all right, but if this has been hindering him in his life for the last 40 years, that anchor and that cord that you were talking about, that is like a freaking platinum layer cord that is not just like, we'll cut it with a scissor. Bro, all of the scissors that you have will probably break by cutting it, by just trying to
Yep.
cut it like that, right? So it takes dismantling, it takes that iron sore of just like rum, rum, rum,
It's
rum, rum,
mad work.
slowly
Mad
getting it
work.
down. It is mad work. And that's why psychologists are some of the best paid people in the world, because they solve and they're like craftsmen. They're like what is the name? Schmied?
Oh
A
yeah, yeah. I don't know how you say it in
well,
English though.
a forge master, right? Like he
Yeah.
is bending and breaking again and bending and breaking again to like shape that person and help that person to rebuild himself. And that's what I really love about this aspect of the psychological work, is that everyone is different, and everyone in a certain way at a certain point in their life maybe should seek out the help of someone who has been actually studying this for over 10 years, and to just get a different light on things, because sometimes you're just burying your own chords over layers and layers and layers of
Hmm.
that self perceived notion of, well, I know how my life works, and then you get into a situation that is not in that framework that you're used to, and you're like, oh fuck, I don't know how my life works, right? So that topic is very dear to me, and I love talking about it. Yet on another note, I want to tap into something that you've mentioned before earlier, because you for me are again someone who is really, I would say, in my friend group, that person that is on the deepest and on the steepest path of just human perfection, of working on himself, on crafting on himself, trying, challenging, not channeling, challenging himself on an ongoing basis. And in my last episode from last week, I talked about the concept of the ripple effect. Are you familiar with that concept?
If you could maybe get into the details of it, I mean, I know the term, but in
Yeah,
detail, just
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
reshape it. Yeah,
So the ripple effect, similar as you dropping a piece of coin into a very shallow but calm sea, the waves create ripples. And when it comes to human engineering, when it comes to personal development, the ripple effect is pretty much the effect of what the improvement of one area of your life can
got it.
transition and help to shape other
Got it.
areas of your
Yeah.
life. So that topic for me, I researched it while I was working on my last episode, and I really fell in love with the idea of it, because I always say, and I think I've mentioned it like 20, 30 times within this podcast in general, is that how you do
How you
anything is
do
how you do
one thing
everything.
is how you do everything.
Exactly. How you do anything is how you do everything. So my question to you is, when it comes to the ripple effect, what are some of the aspects, the characteristics that you have built for yourself, that you are carrying from one area of life to another area of your life? Like, what would you say is the foundational layer of your ripple effect in your life? Because I know that Jim, for example, for you is the perpetuator for business, investment, work, professional life, and so on. What are some of the ground aspects of you, if you get what I'm saying, when it comes to your type of ripple effect in your life? And how would you say, can someone transition and would take these aspects and transition them over into other areas of his life? I don't know if you got my question
Yeah, man.
right.
I mean, it starts with, first of all, identifying the areas of life that are important to you. And for me, it's easier to identify it because I actually work with it on paper, such as spirituality, business, relationships, these 7, 8 areas, just to have this clarity. And starting with a foundation, again, is that taking like these puzzles aspects of yourself and putting them together and have clarity on what your core values are, what are your life principles. And I know it sounds like it's like a CD on repeat, some of these things we talk about, but that's what it always comes down to. It's having this set foundation that you can build on. Because if you start with a shaky foundation, next thing you know, for example, that um, luggage or that bag that you carry starts to become heavier and heavier. And I know you have all types of traumas or emotional, charged baggage that you carry. And next thing you know, it becomes too heavy and you fall in your butt. So it's very important to have this foundation. And I've done a lot of work as far as that, just determining what I stand for, what are the things that are important to me, again, individually, such things as just basic, regular kindness, integrity, and hard work, determination, loyalty, all of these words that actually mean something. And it's up to you to see what they mean to you. And then when you have them and they're just more clear to you, then you can start linking them up with the areas of your life that you just target and want to become better at, where you just want to unlock your potential. For example, one of the things that is important to me is conscientiousness, just doing the things that you're supposed to do and doing them the right way. And just as far as respecting what you're supposed to do, your obligations, your duties, your responsibilities. And one of the basic examples, of course, is with the gym. With the gym, it's very simple. I'm the type of person, one of my values is just commitment. Of course, I'm not perfect. I know that. There are some days, areas, or seasons in my life where I'm maybe a little bit more, I wouldn't say lazy, but less committed, or maybe a little bit more, that I want something, I'm engaged with something, but not totally committed. Of course, I'm not gonna act like I'm this madman who's always on point all the time. That's delusional. That's not how
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that works for me. That's for sure. But still, it's this consistency as well. It's okay. You have these set values. Do you actually um, live them through in your life? Do you is that something, the congruency aspect of it? Because a lot of people, they don't feel good about themselves, or there's like some type of hole in their lives because there's a lack of congruency, doing something that is not in alignment with what you believe in or with your values. And that's just one of the huge things that it starts with. And yeah, how do one thing translates, of course, into other areas of my life. So if I'm determined with something and I start something, I'm the type of person, when I start something, I want to get it done. I'm not going to find excuses, while still being reasonable, of course, not putting myself in danger, my body, whatever it is. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with sports, that's the type of mentality that I have. And it has translated into work as well. For me, at work, it's important to respect my responsibilities, what I'm supposed to do. And if necessary, I'm going to go beyond it. For me, it's important how other people are going to look at my work, because it's going to speak for myself, but also for the team I'm part of. And I'm a big fan of just, displaying the good qualities of not just yourself, but also the part of the group that you're in. So you just feel
Mm-hmm.
this part of responsibility. Maybe I could give another example as well that doesn't go into the aspect of determination, but just also, it sounds so stupid and basic, but regular basic as respect and kindness. the way I'm gonna interact with someone who's homeless, I'm gonna give them the basic level of respect. And of course, when I interact with someone who's maybe higher up in the government or whatever, because I have the chance to, yeah, speak to some people who have important positions in life, or who have had huge amount of success or whatever, it's I'm
Hmm.
not going to worship anybody. It's There's still going to be this congruency of respect, of kindness, knowing that I can learn from everybody, knowing that I just look at everybody as human, and I don't
Hmm.
care what race, quote unquote, you have, ethnic background. I don't care if you're carnivore, vegan. I don't care if you're lefty or maybe a little bit more conservative. I'm still gonna look at you as a human, plain simple, very basic. But the way I'm gonna approach that in my personal life, it's gonna be very similar in my professional life as well. So it's translated. It's not like where, oh, I'm gonna be I'm the type of person that's a dick, a jerk in my private life, and then, oh, super fake, kind people pleaser in my professional life. So yeah,
I, th-
it, for
I think
this, yeah, point.
this is where you quote this is where your quote comes in great again, from Nick Bear. You want to be consistently good instead of just occasionally great. Um, you can interpret that in so many different layers and ways, but I think this is exactly it. Like, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you show up to yourself on a daily basis, and how that projects outwards into the external world, into any type of situations that you approach. This is, and I think this is becoming a topic for us in our 30s, which is so, 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 so important. What will people remember us for? If we were to depart through some tragic or non tragic way from this life, what will people remember us for? Right? And I think this is the groundwork that we have laid over the last 10 years. We have figured out what our grounds are that we want to walk on. And we have maybe not 100% determined our values, because values and beliefs are something that constantly changes and reiterates, and you
Yep.
you kind of like figure it out day by day. Yet those values that you've considered and that you've determined for yourself, because my good friend Daniel, he is big into identity work, and the values that that you determine for yourself kind of sets the trajectory that you are on. And
Mm-hmm.
if your values are from the ground out good, and you believe in a higher power, you have always positive and constructive hopes for the future, for other people around you, and for yourself and for your family, this is something that people will remember you for. And I think that's one of the most beautiful aspects of life. If the work that you are putting out, people can reflect back on you for who you are and what you are. And I think that is something so powerful, because I want to be remembered for the authentic, the goofy, the, very rational, but still very emotional Tim that I am. I want to be remembered for, the hard words and the soft lessons, or the soft words and the hard lessons that I brought forward, right? That's what I want to be remembered for. Um, and to the beauty of that, I think that is what makes this life so livable, because we are here to experience. We are not here to perfect. We are maybe here, and again, this is from all the agnostic teachings that we've read over the last years, we are here to find enlightenment. But what the fuck is enlightenment?
Yeah.
Enlightenment is not standing in the light. Enlightenment is not having a hollow, maybe it is having a hollow around you, right? Again, this is where the biblic studies come in and say, like, nope, this is where what you see above all the angels, above Jesus Christ, right? Yes, but have you actually seen someone in our nowadays world, in our nowadays age, having a halo like that? Hmm. Have you still seen yogis, and have you still seen spiritual people that are so close in your perspective to enlightenment? Do they have hollows around? Do they just transcend time and space?
Not that I
I'm
know
not
of.
saying that none of
No.
this is true. I
Right.
believe in all of this. I believe in all of this. Yet enlightenment in my eyes is that understanding that light is the ruling force and the creation of all, yet light was created through darkness. So the
Oh yeah.
diversity and the polarity of both
Hmm.
is what we have to incorporate into our life. We have to experience the light aspect of life, understand that light is the goal, that light is the destiny. Yet, walking through darkness is what makes us appreciate, learn, craft, honor, and respect our light more and more and more. And maybe at the end of times, when we are going from light into darkness again, when we're taking our last breath,
Hmm.
this is where the circle closes and we truly get to light. Like, this is a beautiful way that I look at life, because it just gives me so much more time and so much more space to breathe and to just be fine with taking time, bro. Like, I'm not sure if I should mention this on the podcast here, but I've recently, over the last 2-3 months, I've had the pleasure of getting to know someone, and we've been spending incredible time, right? An incredible time. And the one thing that she has taught me is that living in the moment, completely detaching yourself from all of these
Hmm.
distractive devices, like literally just being there. I shut my phone off for a whole weekend. I am completely detached and I'm present in the moment. And that is one of the most beautiful realizations that I've had in a long, 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 long time, and that I want to honor and harness even more, is that I, I'm becoming less and less attached to this distractive world that is trying to take us away from ourselves. Like, what I want to do with this podcast, like Instagram, I've been building in the beginning, and I've been posting one post a day for 2 different accounts. It's like, it was a hustle, bro, for 6 months. And I learned so much about myself, but I don't think that I want to do this again. Why? Because it leaves me too much in a world and in a space where I don't feel comfortable being in every single day. I would much rather work and build out a YouTube channel where I know I can have one video per week. I don't need to engage with anyone specifically. I can just work on that video offline here with you in a conversation. I'm going to take 1.5 hours after this before I leave to a cool event, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But um, I'm going to work 1.5 hours on this thing. I'm going to publish or schedule it. It's going to go live, and I can be in the present moment again. I can live and enjoy my life again. And that realization for me, bro, it has been so beautiful. So you guys will probably see occasional clips and snippets from me on Instagram. But if you really want to reach out to me, connect, and have more of me, like, check out my YouTube channel, and reach out to me, like, message me. Let's have a talk. Let's connect. Let's have a conversation. Because this is what life is all about, man. Fuck all the surface level bullshit.
All the
Let's
distractions, the
just
division, bro.
fuck it.
This,
Fuck it.
it's crazy. It's
Fuck it.
madness. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the same as you. You're doing a really, really good job at this. You're just sticking to your lane. You're doing what you know you can do best, and that is the most important thing for you right now. And I think in that aspect, what you're doing, bro, is great, and you should just
Thank you.
continue doing it.
Thank you, man. That was
And let's see within the next 10 years. Let's see within the next 10 years what the 30s have brought us, and maybe we're gonna be exactly the same way, just with a little bit more gray hairs or no hairs. And I'm gonna be saying, bro, those 30s over here, like, I'm looking forward to the 40s. Like, I can tell you.
bro,
Who
man.
knows? Who
No, it's
knows?
super, super exciting. Who knows? Actually, that's the thing. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Nobody knows.
That's it. That's it.
Nobody knows, and nobody has a fucking plan
Hmm.
about anything.
No, that's it.
uh I'm so happy though. Cool. Listen, man, I gotta wrap this up because I'm actually have to leave in an hour from here because I got invited from work to Germany, and that's on a different note, completely away from personal development. I don't know if you know the Nürburgring, and
Yeah,
you
of
know
course,
the
of course.
the racing track in the Nürburgring. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this weekend is actually the 24-hour race on the Nürburgring, and
Ooh,
from my work, I've been invited to go there.
nice,
It's
nice.
one of it's the largest race It's the largest race event in the world and in
Right.
Germany, and it's one of the largest. I think they're driving within 24 hours 27,000 kilometers with their car, right? So it's like
Dang.
it's complete madness. I've never been there. I'm not a big motorsport guy, but I said that I have to check it out. But actually, this episode is airing today still, so be ready. You can actually listen to it in 3 hours time from now.
Nice.
But yeah, Michael, it was an absolute pleasure. I don't know if you have any last words, maybe some things that you want to plug, or some last, a last little nugget that you want to leave. I give you around 2 minutes time from here to just spill it out, and then we're going to close it out, my friend.
All right,
So
bro.
go ahead.
Well, one last point that I would like to emphasize on is one of the things that you talked about as far as how you perceive yourself. And how you perceive yourself might not always be congruent or aligned with what's in reality. We all have blind spots, and that's why it's important to do this self work consistently. But also, it's a good thing to ask for feedback. It can be colleagues, it can be your friends, it can be people, professionals in the mental health, in the health sector. So it's really something to take into account that, yeah, nobody's perfect. We all have our flaws. And as long as we start with the first step, and which is awareness, and just being aware that we all have our blind spots and that we are willing to work on it, then you're just going to be fine. Everybody's going to be fine. You're just going to continue to grow. And yeah, man, to finish it off, bro, Tim, I got really so much love and respect for you, and I can't say it enough. But just like we've known each other for quite a few years now, and it's crazy to see to witness your growth. And I listened to some of your solo episodes yesterday, and I was just like, damn, man, this guy, it's crazy. It's crazy. Just the way you're able to articulate such complex ideas and subjects and thoughts, it's huge. And people probably underestimate it, can't really imagine how much work there was behind it. Not just the episode itself, but just the entire work you did on yourself, and how you took yourself accountable, and all of the shit that you experience, and the failures and the mistakes. And it's just what makes you super relatable and super human. And that's why a lot of people, when they are in your proximity, they just feel entrusted, just feel you have this capacity, this ability to put people in this safe space. And that's why this lane right here, this niche, especially this podcasting niche and these matters, that's you, man. That's you. It's really a good summary of what you stand for, and who you are. And just keep it up, brother, man. Just keep it up. Nothing but love.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. The Journey Beyond podcast will be around for a long time, because I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times already. This is a task, and this is a thing that I would do even if I would know that I would not being if I would let me repeat that. Tongue twister. This type of work is exactly what I would continue to be doing, even though I knew that I wouldn't get paid for it. And I think that's the most important thing, right? Like, I
Yep.
love conversations. I just got myself gear for doing this in the future locally, right? I've ordered a second one of these babies yesterday. It will arrive on Tuesday, another anchor. And the
Let's
next time we sit
go.
together, my friend, will be
Yep.
actually like in a cool setting where we have like maybe even 2 hours or 2.5 hours of conversation like this, right? So, bro, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. I love you. Thank you so much for your time again coming on here. Again, you can listen to this episode, in a little bit of time coming out, and you can enjoy it through the rest of your day, actually. Um, yeah, man, thank you so much for tuning in. I guess I will, in case there are some things that you want to link, send them over to me. I would love to, put them in the descriptions here. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for being part of this incredible transformational journey that we're all on here on the Journey Beyond podcast. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone
Thank you,
listening. Have a
brother.
beautiful rest of your Saturday. And as we always say, see you in the next one.
Peace out.